Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Ninth Grade Experience podcast. I'm your host, Chris Dutchko. The goal of the Ninth Grade Experience is to give you the story of ninth grade students at Emmaus High School and beyond through the people who live it daily, the students and the staff. We will attempt to touch on real issues and stories that ninth grade students face in order to prepare them to know that ninth grade counts. And today we're coming to you as a wrap up for our appearance at the PETE&C conference in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So this is the second time that the ninth grade experience has come to the conference to present. Last year, it was in a virtual format. This year, we did it live and in person. So it was nice to have an audience here to come in and talk about ninth grade experiences of different students throughout the state of Pennsylvania. We had three brave people that came up to speak with us about the ninth grade experience of the students that they work with from different size high schools throughout the state. So we had Beth, Nicole, and Kayla came up and gave us different perspectives on ninth grade students, their own ninth grade experiences, and different things that students can focus on and work on to be content creators as they kind of go through their ninth grade experience, and then what should they know at the end of that ninth grade year that can help them to be successful in high school and beyond. So lots of great conversation from the four people on the panel. It was nice to kind of get them to volunteer and come up. They did get a sticker for it. So that was their big payoff. They got a sticker and a free Reese's cup, which I have here that are still on the table here. So it was a great experience being here for the day to record. We recorded an episode with Jimmy Cassis, who is the keynote speaker of the first day of the conference. That's on a separate episode of the podcast. So if you're listening to this one and haven't checked that one out, please do. Go to ninthgradeexperience.com and you'll be able to find all of our back episodes as well too. So you can go there. You can go to YouTube, just search ninth grade experience as well. Or if you're going to listen to it in podcast form, you can go to any one of the podcast players that you can go to and you can listen there. But ninthgradeexperience.com will give you the area to come. And then you can even interact with us by sending us a voicemail or sending us another message as well too. So it's always great to hear from different people around the state of Pennsylvania about what their ninth grade students are going through. And amazingly, it always comes back to some of the same issues that our students at Emmaus High School are going through as well. So lots of interesting conversation. So we will give you this episode here with Beth, Nicole, and Kayla on the panel of this year's PETE&C conference session. So thanks a lot for joining us and hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome everybody to this episode of the ninth grade experience. We are recording this during the session during the PETE&C conference on Monday, February 7th. We are in the session that's talking about the ninth grade experience. So we have had some brave volunteers come up that would like to talk about their ninth grade experience. They'd like to talk about kind of where they see themselves in helping ninth grade students as well. And they're going to rehash a little bit of their own ninth grade experiences as well too. So we're going to go around the table. We're going to let them introduce themselves and give a little bit about them and whatever they're willing to share. Because of course we're here and making sure that, we don't give away too much information if people don't want to share everything about, everything. So I will go around and whoever wants to go first can go first.
Okay, my name's Nicole, and I am in my second year as a high school principal of a 6A school in northeastern Pennsylvania.
My name is Kayla. I'm a school psychologist for a school in Blair County. We have about 8,000 students, so we're pretty large. That's district-wide, sorry, not just in the high school.
I was going to say, that is a large school.
No, that's like too large. Yeah, we're not quite that large.
That's like, if you're 6A, then that would be like 25A. Yep.
That's exponential, yeah.
So, and I'm Beth. I'm a high school librarian. This is my 7th year in a school of about 1,200 students, suburban Philadelphia area.
Okay, so we have a good representation here. We have, lots of different voices that are willing to come on and talk on the podcast. So every new guest that we have, and you're all new guests because no one's ever been on this before, every new guest we have on the podcast, I ask them the same first question: what was your ninth grade experience like? So I always tell the guests, you do not have to give your year or any other identifying feature about yourself, but we like to hear about your ninth grade experience in order to kind of open the discussion about where we are currently. So who wants to volunteer their ninth grade experience? And again, whatever you feel comfortable sharing is what we're going to get today.
I'll go first.
I was going to say, everyone stares waiting for somebody to break the ice, but we have Beth is going to go first.
So for me, it was mid-'80s. So it was Big Hair and Duran Duran and Aquanet. I was a band geek, so I thought that helped with the transition into high school because band camp ran for a week before school actually started, and you had the camaraderie of supporting the football team. So I think that was a really nice introduction to high school and sort of having a built-in group before I started.
This is Kayla. About 10 years ago was when I was 15 years ago was ninth grade. Ninth grade was the start of varsity sports, so that was basketball. And we had just a couple, but 6 a.m. practices. And that was a new adjustment at that time to start things so early or almost every day after school and Saturdays. So sports was a big thing when ninth grade.
And this is Nicole. Ninth grade for me was the mid-90s. It was still a junior, we had a junior high model at that time, so I was still I was not in the high school yet, which is different than the school I work at. And again, getting involved in everything and anything that I possibly could. Sports, clubs, that kind of year.
And we'll talk about the things you're involved in, but since we're at a technology conference, I always like to ask this question. What was the one piece of technology that you remember from your ninth grade year? Did they roll in the video cart? Was it where you got the paper and it was purple all over your hands from the copier? Do you remember what your ninth grade technology was?
For me, it was the old projector that our teachers used to write. I can't even think of what they're called now.
Oh, like the overhead projector?
The overhead projector, and they would write notes and it would be projected. Besides that, we didn't have computers. We didn't even have word processors at that point.
We had one of those in our classroom this year, and we showed the kids how it actually worked. And it was like, we called it the Apple TV of 1995.
Yeah.
Did yours make like finger puppets?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then one of the things they were amazed at is you could make the projection bigger or smaller by moving the projector backwards and forwards, and that was how you had to make the projector big. So I think everyone has that common experience. So what else were our ninth grade technologies?
I had the giant TV on a cart connected to the VCR on the shelf below. That was the epitome of technology in the mid-'80s. And I took, jumping ahead a little bit, but I took a computer programming class as a senior, and computer coding in that year was how to make a little like pixelated boat sail across the screen in BASIC.
High tech.
It was very high tech.
Yes.
I was part of the implementation of the Promethean boards when I was in school. So those were new and exciting, and we were always curious as to what teachers were getting them and why, usually like math and reading. But so I was part of that. We had laptops in school, but they were for use in school only. And like teachers were like, oh, it's like glass, be super careful. And now it's just a whole different ballgame now than what we had. It's the same technology. It's just been developed a lot more. So that's a little different there.
Yeah. So you probably had the cart. So you had to everyone had to sign it out, and the number was on the top, and you had to sign out to make sure that you put the same thing back into the space. And I remember those days of like kind of making sure, and then trying to figure out why students couldn't plug them into the cart and all those different things.
There was always the one kid that took all the keys off and rearranged the keyboard with the old style keys. So you can't do that on these ones, but they could pull the keys off
So in the last couple of years, obviously technology has been a huge factor in our ability to continue with our learning and all those other things. So I think it's interesting to look back on our ninth grade technologies and kind of see where we all were. And we're coming from from 3 different decades as well. So it's kind of interesting to see the progression here to today where, if you walked through the main hallway of all the different products that are being offered here at PETE&C, it was like being almost like in the middle of a virtual reality world that kind of our students will have access to. So it was kind of neat to see. So we're going to move along with our second question here. So we're all the people that are on the panel here are working in a high school. So how can we encourage students during their ninth grade year to expand their ideas about the usage of technology and move from being merely consumers of media to actually people that make things? I think it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, I think we have this idea that all students are these digital natives and they're awesome with technology. And then you ask them to do something and it's like they can't do something that we think is very basic. So any suggestions or ways we think that we can encourage them to be creators and not necessarily just consumers?
I think we have to create those opportunities in our classrooms and in our schools where prior to the pandemic, they just consumed, but with the change in the expectations that we have on kids, they have to be creators in order to find success, or they're really bystanders in this digital world. They really can't get that level of engagement that we really want. So we have to restructure the way we think to help them become creators.
I like that. I also like flipping the classroom, let the students take some time to make some digital content, and they can use whatever platform they want. And these are make a class-wide project that the students teach the class, something like that. You never know what they're going to come up with. It's amazing.
Yeah, something that I've tried is just as an exit ticket activity is, for example, having them create a meme about, we just talked about internet searching. Well, can you create a meme sharing a good tip for finding information on the internet? Gives them a chance to be creative in a format that they're more familiar with consuming.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times that the teachers are kind of not, maybe we're up on the technology, but maybe we're not up to how the students are using it. And I think that's one of the things that I've found is like trying to meet them where they are.
TikTok.
Where a lot of times we don't even know where they are. And it's kind of really interesting, like even with the podcast here, like I have found that kids don't listen to it. They would rather watch it on YouTube than find it on a podcast thing to listen to it. So it's kind of interesting, I think teachers, and I think if being at the conference here is kind of like figuring out like how do we then adjust all these different things. Like there were sessions on like feedback and all these other things that, as we're kind of looking at technology and we're looking at strategies and those kinds of things, like how do they kind of play to what the students need in order to be successful. So any other thoughts about that question there as we kind of move them towards like being creators? I know Nicole talked about potentially at her high school, like the beginnings of a podcast club. Was that something that the students came up with, or was that a staff initiative? Like, talk a little bit about what that is going to look like, if you know.
Yeah, sure. So we have a process that if students are interested in starting a club, there's a proposal form. They put down their thoughts on paper, and they're tasked with finding an advisor, and then we will cover the cost to try and get the club off the ground and running. So this was something that the students introduced last year and at the end of last year. So it's just been a little bit of a slow process, but they're super excited, and they're trying to record for an upcoming competition. So they're there.
Are they trying to do the NPR?
They are.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah, so that's the student podcast, I guess awards of that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting, like, we don't oftentimes I think kids are very easy to like post what they eat for breakfast or what their, outfit of the day is, those kinds of things. But when you ask them to like talk on recording about like work that they're doing or problems that they see, they kind of need that like guidance and other stuff. So it's interesting that they want to pursue podcasting, and then, what they're going to do with it to enter the contest. Hopefully after they enter the contest, they still want to continue producing. Do they have any ideas yet about what they might want to talk about? Or I'm not that we're asking them to give away your secrets.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure. They've been working with our advisor, so I'm not sure what their topics are at this point. But we were able to partner with a nonprofit to try and get us the supplies that we needed and the equipment, and it's really been a great experience.
Anyone else that works at one of the high schools have like anything that students are doing with like creating content? I know at our school we have something that I haven't been able to really go to yet to see. It's just called the Content Creators Club, and they meet on Tuesdays, and it's like they show like in their ad they show like YouTube and TikTok, and I don't know what it is yet. I haven't been able to get to it, but I'm excited to see it. But is anyone else on the panel like, what's going on at your school with like the content creation piece?
I had a photography film teacher a few years ago who was doing something similar, if you're familiar with Humans of New York.
Yeah.
Who was trying to do that with individuals in the school and in the community. So her students would go out and photograph or film people talking sort of in specified areas that are of interest. So that's another way to encourage students. And most of the focus was on, I think, social justice or social issues to bring awareness to the community.
Cool. And nothing, it's okay. Hey, maybe today will be the spark that you can take back to your school and be like, hey, we should start a podcast. We should start a video club, whatever it is.
I wish I had more. Sorry.
So we have one final question as we're kind of winding down our discussion here. So at the end of the student's 9th grade year, what technology skills should students have learned that will help them to prepare for success in high school and beyond. So things that we might consider with this one: if students were not successful during their 9th grade year, how can we rebuild their confidence through the use of technology? And the mystery question: do all students need the same skills as they move forward? So not every student is going to be the podcast creator or the video creator. Do they all need to do that? So what kinds of things do you all think that 9th graders, so at the end of the 9th grade year, they should be able to do what, or feel strong in what areas?
I feel like we talked about them being creators, but I think there's actually important for them to be knowledgeable consumers, to be able to identify where the information is that they're receiving. Is it a news story from the internet, or is it a TikTok video or a meme that's been making its way through all the different social media platforms? And what's the intent or the bias or the actual background of the information that they're consuming? I think a lot of times our 9th graders can get a little overwhelmed with what they're seeing on social media and on the internet in general.
I'm looking at the mystery question there. Do all students need the same skills? I think everybody needs problem solving skills, and right now that seems to be with digital focus. But I mean, these platforms are going to change and evolve, and I think the biggest thing to have is that ability to be flexible and learn those new skills as they come. So it's a mindset, and it's problem solving skills at this point in time. I mean, I don't think they're really specific skills for this year or next year. It's just having that mindset and that ability to rotate with the technology changes.
Yeah, and I think that's important, like, because, you know, by the time that teachers or educators are like, oh, TikTok is the thing, like, TikTok's almost on its way out already. They're like getting ready to move on.
Teacher,
like,
yeah, makes it
like
TikTok.
If your teacher thinks it's cool, then it is time to move on to the newest platform. Like, I don't know if people remember Vine. Vine was kind of like the thing right before TikTok, like 6
and
seconds.
they shut it down.
Yeah. So
and now
like,
look.
and it's kind of the same concept coming back around. So I think the 9th graders, I think, are always in that unique spot of like knowing what's kind of cool, and then kind of we have to play catch up to what they have and what they're thinking about as well. So final thoughts there?
Responsible consumption, I think, is the most which was talked about. Just there's so much information coming at 9th graders that they have to really be able to sift through and make sure that the information is authentic.
And I think that's, you know, I've been able to do this at several conferences, and it's really interesting that the same conversation keeps coming up about being responsible with technology, being able to understand the differences between, you know, what's true and what's not true, what's good content versus bad content, what's like, how do we present ourselves online? I'm sure, you know, all schools at this point are doing like that discussion about, you know, the things that you might put online are the things that will be known about you for the remainder of not your life, but, you know, the time and all the different things. So lots of interesting things to think about for our 9th grade students to be able to kind of, as they move forward in their school or move forward maybe going on in their career, to kind of think about those things. So does anybody have any last thoughts that they'd want to give about 9th grade and kind of that crazy year of transition and kind of getting students ready and those kinds of things?
Enjoy the ride.
Exactly, yeah.
It's an exciting year. They're trying new challenges, kind of spreading their wings. They're in the big school now and being able to do way more activities. So it's kind of fun to harness that energy.
So thanks to our brave people that came up that participated in our conversation here. It's much appreciated. They only did it for a sticker. So there's no and a Reese cup that's, you know, that was in the room. So I didn't bring those as well. But I'd like to thank them for coming up, being brave and volunteering and giving lots of great insight and conversation to what our 9th grade experience was like. So thank you very much for coming up to join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Chris Stuchko. I am the host of the 9th Grade Experience podcast, and I have been here at Emmaus High School for 13 years. And in my time here at the high school, the event that I think has been one of the greatest examples of how our community comes together is the Shave for the Brave event. I am one of the few people who has participated as a shavee in every one of the events. So it started in 2010, and in 2011, 2013, 15, 17, 19, and I will be again shaving my head here in 2022. I've risen to the rank of something called Knight of the Bald Table, so it's kind of interesting that I have been able to do that. So why did I originally become part of Shave for the Brave? It was because of a track team member in 2010 came into my classroom. I was a new teacher in 2010 here to the high school and said, "Do you want to participate in an event?" And I said, "Sure." and they gave me a neon green t-shirt, which I still have today. There were no Shave for the Brave shirts at that time, and it was really small and nobody really knew what it was about. And we raised a little bit of money that year, and now here we are in 2022, and we're attempting to raise over $100,000 each year. This event has grown and grown and grown, and this year we're taking it back to its roots. It used to be outside at the track, so I'm excited to have it be outside again, so it'll be kind of fun to go back to where it was in the beginning. So hopefully all of you who are watching this, you can learn about Shave for the Brave, and you can look at all the posters and listen to all the stories that people are going to tell around the school here. But it is an event that makes me, East Penn, proud, Emmaus proud, to see everyone coming together in order to raise money. I would recommend going to the event, donating if you can, volunteering to have your head shaved. It is definitely one of those things when you participate in it, it'll leave a lasting impression on you. So participate in Shave for the Brave on March the 11th, and hopefully you come out and support everything that's going on. Show some pride in your school. It's something that we can all rally behind, helping to end childhood cancer. So thanks a lot for listening, and hopefully we will see you out there at the event on March 11th.